We are live. Hello, hello, hello. It's
Hello,
the Green
everybody.
Umbrella Live lunch. Slight change. We've given Kim the week off. She was supposed to work, but I had her out all day yesterday at a client meeting. Today, she's got 2 client meetings. She's got a call for something that she's been asked to do that is I'm so excited about it. She's been asked to do so. I'm not going to say what it is just yet, but it's something, and it's the first time she's been asked to do it, and it's really exciting and a real kind of high five to what she's been doing in terms of putting herself out there. So I'm like, it's the result of what happens when you put yourself out there. So I'm really excited for her for that. So, but we'll talk about that next week when it's all happening and that kind of thing. So yeah, so no Kim today, but it's okay. Because
Why is it okay?
Debs has finally appeared under the mountain of client work she's been hiding under for the last sort of six weeks, last couple of months really. So I'm good. So here you are on live lunch. We've got you all to. I've got you all to myself, right? Myself and everyone that's here. So perfect opportunity to talk about you and what you do specifically within Green Umbrella. But what people probably don't realise is that as much as you are a massive integral part of the business, and I'm massively grateful to have you on the team. You have your own business, Design Smile as well. So you are a graphic designer in your own right, doing loads of stuff around branding and websites and general design, loads of stuff around translation and that kind of stuff as well. And so we get to spend the whole session talking about the stuff that lights you up that's still going to be massively relevant to the audience.
Okay, great. Fire away. Well,
so obviously I've said a little bit about what you do, but what's the story, Debs? Tell people a little bit about why you do what you do, why you love it so much.
Well, I love it because I've always been very arty, obviously, and I love helping people create a brand and create stuff that they're really proud of, and that gives them the confidence to put themselves out there. So obviously, if your brand's a little bit shaky, everyone needs the Debs, yeah. If your brand's a little bit shaky, hey Kim, what are you doing? Then you don't have the confidence to really get out there and do what you want to do. And the idea behind it, so the smile behind, a few people have asked. So over the years, I've done my own sort of brand development, and I'm shifting from Design Smile to Brand Smile. But the original idea behind the Design Smile was to design, but also to make people smile. So I'm not in the dentist industry. It wasn't, a lot of people said, "Oh, are you a dentist?" And it's like, no. The idea behind the brand ethos was, having had some amazing experiences in corporate and in corporate design and in, creative agency design, was the most important thing is when you work together with people, there needs to be joy, there needs to be happiness. And obviously, if you don't have those things as a creative, then being creative is really tough. So, and that was the real basis of the name of my company, was to bring people, more than anything, was to make people smile. And if I can give them a good brand and a brand that makes them smile, then that projects over to their clients and, in their industry, so to speak. And I know, people say, oh, corporate needs to be serious. And that, however, my corporate experience, I worked for a massive lifestyle assurance company back in the day before I started my company. And it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life, because I worked with some incredible people who did make me smile, and that was really, really important, and I think that if it wasn't for them, I don't think I would be where I am today. And I don't think I would have started my company as it was. So yeah, so that's sort of the history behind Design Smile.
Excellent. And I love it, because I've always said, like, your brand is such a communication of everything you stand for, that you've got to love it. If you don't love your brand, why the hell should anyone else? And I think when you do love your brand, it gives you that additional level of confidence to be able to put yourself out there, you know, those LinkedIn posts that wear your logo, wear your colours, it puts you in such a great position. Now, I was talking to someone yesterday, in fact, about they're currently getting started. They've just left corporate, starting up on their own. So they're looking at sort of brands, logos, that kind of thing. And it, you know, it's a friend of mine, so it's not an official job, right? But they've got some initial concepts for their logo, and they showed me, and they're like, "Which do you like?" And I'm like, none of them.
Yeah.
I can have conversations like that with friends, or I do it with clients too, but that's not the point.
Yeah, you have to really.
The conversation we then went on to have was, that's the logo, it's not a brand.
Yeah.
You know, your logo is an element of your brand. So
yeah,
as the design, as the in-house expert, if you like, on all things branding, where should people start when it comes to creating their brand?
okay, so I mean, it's quite a tough question, but you really need to think about your audience as well as yourself. So obviously, usually people, when they're starting their own businesses, it's come from a passion, and it's, you know, it's usually come from
Purpose.
you know, something, yeah, it's come from purpose and passion. So therefore, like, let's say, you know, you're in the sporting industry, or, you know, you're in PTing, or, you know, then you potentially, your brand needs to have a mixture of what your audience, what your target audience is, and then obviously your passion. So hopefully, or nutrition, for example, you know, if you're in it needs to be a mix of both. It needs to be a good balance of both. So, you know, like if you're targeting maybe ladies at 40 years old and whatever, then needs to speak directly to them and what they like, and obviously people that are interested in sport or nutrition or one or the other. I'm particularly passionate about sport and nutrition, but you know, as a designer, but it's yeah, it needs to be a good balance, really. I don't know if I've answered the question properly, but
absolutely. And I think values comes into it as well. It's the mission comes into it. It's, if you're, so sometimes people look at it and they go, oh yeah, but the brands we see, they all look like this, so we need to have something aligned to that. But what they're actually the reason they're doing what they're doing is because they want to maybe disrupt. So actually your branding should speak to the fact that you want to be disruptive, that you want to change the game.
yeah,
So
definitely.
Huge things there. Absolutely. Paul's just commented. Yeah, so Paul's just said, you know, when he went through rebrand, first part was looking at values, how people perceive the brand, the vision, the mission, and then he got a graphic designer in to work on things. So I think that's a really good approach. Interesting then, we were chatting about this. I asked you a question before we sort of went live, and I stopped you like 3 words into your answer. I was like, no, forget that. I'm going to ask you when we're live. Rebranding is really interesting. Okay, so we work with a lot of people that they've already got brands, and they get to the point and they feel like I need to rebrand. So, but sometimes a rebrand is not a rebrand. Sometimes it's just a tweak of what's existing. It's a tidy up.
But I think realignment.
Yeah, realignment's a really good way of describing it. I feel like sometimes people think you're either creating your brand and then you've got one, and any changes you want to make are a rebrand.
Yeah, no, it's a progression. It's like a development. So, for example, our lovely Paul, you know, like sometimes, you know, when you start your business, generally, you know, some people stick to the same mission, stick to the same values. You know, they're really, you know, it's really kind of dedicated to that. But then sometimes things evolve, and your brand, your values and your mission can change, you know, as you move along and you have different experiences, etc., etc. But your brand should always evolve and should always, you know, your basis is there, you know, and then it should just grow naturally. But I mean, it's difficult because, you know, a rebrand, I would only really suggest in, like, you know, if you're completely changing track, you know, like you're going from going to be a dentist to a psychiatrist or something. I don't know. Does that make sense? It's kind of, you're going to be completely, you're moving from sports to I don't know, marketing, you know, it's that kind of thing. Unless, you know, obviously you might be sports marketing, you know, it's a kind of, it's really delicate, you know, and a lot of people think, oh, I need to rebrand, but actually, do you need to rebrand? Do you know what I mean? It's like that, you know, it's just, it could be just tweaks that you need. It could be just, you know, because rebranding can be obviously really, really expensive as well, especially, you know, like, and I think, you know, like of Johnson & Johnson, you know, and they rebranded recently, God knows how much they pay for it, but really they didn't rebrand, they just tweaked the typeface of their font just a little bit, and like, you know, they probably paid some massive design agency a huge amount of money to do that. But it's kind of like, you know, but that for me it's not rebrand, it's just a tweak. Does that make sense? And really, yeah, obviously they've probably got a ton of documentation to, you know, sort out and update, but you know, it's a really tough one, and it kind of, your brand just evolves with your company, and yeah, I mean, it is a difficult one. And I think a lot of people sort of get overexcited and follow trends, and I have to admit, like, you know, I'm a bit kind of always shiny and new, all out, you know, need to do a bit of a change, you know, and I think I've rebranded, well, I've tweaked my logo probably about 200 times over the last 20 years, and you know, and it's like, you know, you've just got to stop at some point and go, yeah, no, but I think that's just, you know, the nature of a design. It's always like, oh, I can make it just a little bit better, I can change it, I could do this, I could do that, but you know, I think with a brand, it's, you know, it just needs to evolve. It's not a rebrand, if that makes as such.
Yeah,
so it helps.
What are the key elements when it comes to creating that brand, strengthening it, building it?
I'm going to go with consistency. So it's really important that branding needs to be consistent. So your client needs to recognize you all the time. So like, I didn't develop the green umbrella logo, but consistently, I think when our stuff goes out, I think it's obvious it's from us. Does that make sense? Whereas, you know, and it takes a really, really strong established brand to be recognized instantly, you know, like I can think of brands in the past that also some brands have failed, you know, that have been really distinctive. You know, it all depends. It is really quite intricate when you get down to it, but I think it's about, you know, like people can see, they recognize you instantly for who you are, and I think that is important, if that makes sense. It's kind of that instant recognition, and you can only really get that from consistency, from consistently getting out there, from consistently posting design that is the same, not the same, but well, it is the same, consistent. I don't know how to say. So like, if you're going to go and swap your fonts every 5 minutes, you know, it's just, it doesn't project, you know, a brand, your corporate brand. It projects confusion and, like, you know, and changing ideas and all that kind of thing. So it is, yeah, that's what I would say is most.
So if you want to check in on your consistency, you need a brand audit, right? So generally a designer would say, like, give me everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm doing a kind of a brand audit for somebody at the moment. We know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So what's the process there?
What's the process? Well, I kind of get everything that they've got. So it's like, you know, posting templates that they're using for social media, documents, website, you know, like brochures, data sheets, you know, lead magnets, their logo, their business cards, their header paper, and you kind of look at it and you're like, how's it going? Does it all sit together? You know, is there differentiation between each item? You know, like, can you really clearly tell that this is the brochure and that is a data sheet, or do they look the same? You know, and also the call to actions, are they this, you know, that obviously falls into the marketing side of things, but are they always being displayed in the same way? Because that's important as well. You know, so, you know, are they on one, you know, something's in pink and then on another something's in bright green, or another it's in purple? Does that make sense? You know, that there's certain consistencies. Like, I tend to always put the green umbrella call to actions on orange, white on orange, you know, so it's kind of, so that people are kind of like, oh, you know, that always remains as a constant. But yeah, so I kind of pull everything together. you know, and then it is again, you know, looking at the client, talking to them about their values and their mission and all that kind of thing, and who's their unique, you know, who's their ideal customer, who's their target audience, and then kind of putting it together and like, am I that person? Am I confused? And like, you know, and it's kind of almost, the longer the audit takes, like, you know, when you're looking at everything together and you're like, hang on a second, you know, I'm a bit confused here. You know, it's like, if I'm confused, maybe the customer's confused as well, and then that's not good.
Yeah, because the saying is, a confused mind doesn't buy.
Yeah, so
That's
you know, it's so
So-
yeah, I mean, it is I mean, the particular customer we work with at the moment is, you know, I mean, their stuff, I actually like their stuff, but it's not quite right, if that makes sense. The design is cool, you know, and I like it, but not for them. Does that make sense? It's kind of, it's not working for them, and it's not working, it's ambiguous, and and when you've got something that's ambiguous, you know, and that can be, you could get that with the design and something like that. They're making everything looking pretty, but they're actually forgetting about, you know, it's all about visual communication, and if that visual communication has missed the mark, which it has done on this particular client, then you know, unless you've got truckload of money to chuck at it, and you're going to be, you know, doing advertising on television, and you're going to be hammering it home with radio ads and all that kind of thing, maybe you might be able to get away with it, and eventually, you know, you'll establish something that is, you know, that is strong. But if you don't, then, you know, it needs to be really clear.
Right, so there's different elements that build a brand. Okay, you've got the logo, fonts, colours, tagline. Like, there's all this stuff that all individual elements of the brand, but people kind of look at it like it's all the logo. So I was having a conversation, and it was a tagline had been included. So this logo was an icon essentially, and the company name,
and the tagline,
and something else, and the tagline. I'm like, that's not a logo.
Yeah, no, that's not, it's like an advert. Yeah, it's not a logo. It's difficult because of, you know, you want to kind of, that's where, like, you know, if you're going to create a logo or an icon or a monogram or whatever it is, you know, and you want to kind of, that needs to sort of talk and also give an idea as to what you're about, if that makes sense at the same time. So, but, you know, it is also, you know, taglines are important, but you should really be able to remove the logo, but also understand what's going on as well. And you know, and that's when the branding comes in. So, you know, you suddenly start so if I was to start taking away the green umbrella, you know, logo away from stuff, you know, the general audience that follow us would know who we are and be like, oh yeah, that's green umbrella stuff. You know, new people, because of the look and the feel is the same. But, you know, I wouldn't do it, because obviously our new audience, you know, will be like, oh, who's that? You know, and that's not good. But one of the problems I see, you know, just recently, and I've done a brochure for somebody, and I've had to include lots of different client logos, and you get to see lots of logos together, and you see what works and you see what doesn't work. And I quite get, one of the things that frustrates me the most when I see a logo is there's like a big piece of text and then a small piece of text underneath. And obviously your logo needs to, you know, and these logos, I'm putting them on, and they're, you know, they're tiny, they're kind of like 2 centimeters on a document. So obviously the top part of the logo you can see, and then the bottom bit that says, I don't know, like, let's, for example, say marketing agency in, I don't know, whatever, you know, and that's just absolutely minute, and you can't even see the words. So it's kind of, it's irrelevant and it's pointless. So it's kind of like that, a lot of people miss that balance, and a lot of people do it. And I again, just recently, you know, like, and I end up, you know, and sometimes even when you're designing it, you can do it and you're like, and then you have to go, no, that's not going to work, take it away, you know, and then you get people who say, oh, can you just put it all on one line? It's like, well, if I put it all on one line, I've got to make it like 2 point, and nobody's going to be able to read it. So no, I can't put it all on one line. But, you know, people, and it's that classic kind of, oh, you've got to keep the client happy, but then at the same time, you know, I will say, I don't agree with it, in my professional opinion, blah, 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 blah. And sometimes the client wins, and I'm just like, fine, have it your way, do it what you want, but, you know, it's not how I like. And then, you know, I have had people come back saying, you were right, actually. Can we just make that a bit bigger?
Yeah,
you know,
tweak.
Yeah, that was like, yeah, just a minor tweak, and it's like, yeah, we'll add that to the business
From a
cards.
minor
And
tweak, it's actually a complete redesign.
yeah, minor tweak, please. Yeah, I just want to change the colours. Yeah, I mean, it is frustrating, and I think I sometimes feel sorry for designers. We are the sort of the end of the line sometimes, and I think if people were to involve us sooner, it would make life easier. Rather, yeah. So.
Okay, there was something you said there I was going to pick up. By the way, Paul's just put in the comments, just wondering whether this is playing at 1.5 speed or is that just Debs? That is 100% just Debs. Absolutely, absolutely. It's like she does finish all of her sentences eventually. It's like you start talking, you're halfway through a sentence, and then you skip to the other one, and then you come back and complete that sentence. But we speak them, so it's all good.
It's okay. But I hope people. I'm really sorry. It's the ADHD that does it, and it's like, oh, it's all exciting, and yeah. So yeah, go on. So what did you pick up from those 5 sentences in that last one question that you asked? That's 5 different things.
Well, you mentioned trends. Okay, so we've seen. There's been a lot of changes over the last few years in terms of colour palettes. We went through the stage where it's like everything was quite bright and bold, which obviously suited us because that's what our brand's like anyway. Then things shifted to this kind of more pastel-y, sort of pastel palettes colours wise, and it does feel like things are going back to that sort of more brighter, more bolder colour schemes again. But what trends are you? Because I see the trends sort of after they've been implemented.
Yeah.
As a designer, you sort of see where things are going. So what are you noticing at the minute?
Well, I mean, the thing is, I sort of like at the beginning of the year, I have a look and it's like, what are the colours? What were the, what are going to be the colours for, before the end of the year, what are the colours going to be for 2025? And like, and what, that sort of thing. I mean, for me, trending, you have to stick to your brand. And again, it's about consistency and you can't keep following the trends. I mean, there might be certain instances where it can work. And you tend to find, like, for example, for me, it's unlikely you're going to get me to do something pastel for you. And, and it has to be a specific request from a client. Like recently I had to do a pastel pink and grey logo and I struggled greatly with it because it's not me. I'm not a pastel person. Fine pastels, but they do work. Do you know what I mean? In some instances. So, for me, I am a massive ignorer of trend. So I've got to like what's happening in the world just to make sure that I'm not doing it. No, it is it's a tough one. At the moment, I mean, I think I think it's like a pale green is a bit popular and like it's kind of, I've seen some I just generally ignore trends and just get on with making everything consistent and making sure that everything rolls out nicely and sticks to the brand.
What are the things that are sort of dated now from a design perspective, or like from a let's think about logos specifically? What kinds of things do you look at now and you think actually that's a bit dated now?
Let me think. Okay, I mean it's tough without sort of like so you sent me some stuff the other day. You sent me a PDF, and I think out of 10 of those logos, I was like 2 of them for me were okay. They weren't dated, I suppose. Again, but we can move into fonts here, and it's kind of sans serif fonts and stuff like that. Sometimes when I see logos that have got like the sort of 1920s type fonts on them, or serif fonts, which are fonts with little bits that hang off them, everybody, sometimes they can look dated. But like obviously like Forbes, which is a big brand, I can't remember, they might have been rebranded by now, but all the Times, let's go for the Times, so that's a sans serif font. It's a really classic, and it works for them. So I'm not going to say that the Times is a dated logo because I think it's great, and I wouldn't suggest they rebrand at all. But like there are some instances when you see some companies that have used that logo, that typeface, and it does look dated. So like I'm trying to think of another brand, like I mean generally some of the bigger brands, they don't look dated because of they've been done well and they're so well known and they kind of do keep up with the times. but you know, like you don't see Tesco changing their colour to pale green because of that's what's trending. Do you know what I mean? It's you know, they're going to stay with their blue and their red. And you know, well, maybe they're not. I don't know. Maybe they're in the middle of a rebrand. We just don't know. And next week, everyone's be like, "Deb was wrong last week," but I don't think they will be. I don't know. I would have advised them against it. You know, Asda. I think Asda are one that were a bit paler and have gone a bit more bright. I think. Yeah. You know, I think they started pale and they've gone bright. Again, that's there might be we'll have to double check that you know, that's just sort of in my memory bank from somewhere. I've just pulled that piece of it. It might be wrong, but I've got this feeling they were, and then that goes against my just don't do pastels kind of you know. But yeah, it's difficult without you saying, so here's a logo, is it dated? I'd go, yeah, no, you know what I mean? It's tough. Yeah. So yeah. And mixing up, I mean, anything, if you're going to put more than, like, you know, if you're going to use more than 2 fonts in a logo, yeah, it's probably going to look a bit naff, really. Generally, that'd be another point.
Right. How many colours in a logo? What's your max?
Wow, well, probably 2, maybe.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I said. I like 2 is good. 3, I've only like 11 years of working, like obviously previously with Mark and now with you, working on sort of creating brands, that kind of thing. There's only once that I can think of where actually we went as far as 3 colours and it worked.
Yeah, I think it's like, you know, if you're a printer and, you know, you want to be using black, pink and magenta, so you're going to go black, you're going to go cyan, magenta, yellow and black, then yeah, okay, that would work. But yeah, I mean, generally, I mean, like you think of it like, I think like Orange, when you think about the telephone company Orange, I don't think exists anymore. I think they've been bought out. I can't remember. Do they still exist, Orange? I don't think so. Yeah, but I mean, obviously they were just like, or it was just an orange square, orange and black, you know, so their branding is orange, black and white, basically, which was fantastic. I love orange and black together. It's awesome. But, you know, it's, you know, it's tough. Yeah, I would say kit colours to a limit. You can, I mean, you can use other colours afterwards. I mean, like I said, we've got like a sort of array of bolder, bright colours to kind of catch the eye. But generally, you know, obviously the green umbrella and, you know, the bar we sit at the bottom is, you know, like always that bright green colour. So we've kind of got the, you know, in the colour palette, so to speak. So I've created a colour palette. Well, I haven't created it, but there was you know, a colour palette which is orange and green, and then obviously off the back of these bolder colours, we've added other colours in.
Yeah, we've kind of developed it further, haven't we? Sort of given ourselves a bit more width to essentially make the presentations that I deliver just that, you know, it's just the colours themselves just helps make them more engaging.
Yes,
obviously,
yeah, basically.
I'm pretty engaging anyway.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so what else? So logo design, big part of what you do. I know you've got packages set up specifically around that. But what else do you get up to?
What, like personally or like design wise? So, well, yeah, well, design wise, I mean, we do it. I'll do anything. You do anything. We do everything together. So it, you know, we're talking exhibition stands, you know, websites. Or I've looked a bit like you might have frozen. I don't know. Yeah, anything really. Anything and everything that can be printed or that can go online can be designed, obviously. So yeah, it's you know, it depends on your budget. And obviously, but the thing is you can do stuff like, for example, we were talking the other day, you know, a client, you know, who's got a small booklet that wants to kind of make that booklet a little bit more special. But obviously, you know, the budget, you know, was for printing was low. And obviously, you know, to get the cover on a slightly higher weight, you know, they're just going to have to pay their entire whole budget plus more. So, you know, because the entire whole budget for printing the whole document is just to get the cover done. Does that make sense? So, you know, obviously, depending on people's budget, depends on what they can do. But, you know, basically, I mean, anything that you can do, anything, you know, everything and anything can be branded.
This is an interesting thing, actually, coming back to brand. So when I'm teaching brand, I sort of say there's 4 questions you need to be able to answer. So what does your brand look like?
Mm-hmm.
What does it feel like?
Mm-hmm.
What does it sound like?
Mm-hmm.
What does it taste like?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's good.
You know, and it's like all of those things will help you direct the colours, the the tone of voice, you know,
Yeah.
the types of imagery you use across your website.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it
Definitely.
directs it all.
Yeah, I think completely. I mean, I think it is again. I mean, that goes back to the original part when we were talking about, your passion and your purpose and what you're doing and who your target audience is, and what you want to give them. Do you know what I mean? So like when it goes back to my branding, with the Design Smile and Brand Smile. So Design Smile was aimed more at corporates. And is more about localization and bigger projects, and whereas Brand Smile is more about SMEs and that kind of thing, but it's more about bringing brands to life but making people happy. And obviously there's a customer service element as well as a branding element, so it's brought together. So for me, I chose yellow because of it's bright, it's sunshine, it makes me feel happy. If it's going to taste of anything, it's going to be like, I don't know, pina colada or orange juice. Do you know what I mean? Something, like some kind of crazy, maybe Sex on the Beach type cocktail. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of, for me, that's what I wanted to create with my branding, because for me, it's everything. Because obviously, the happier somebody is, and the happier they are with their brand, then the better they can sell. So it's like the more love I inject, the more love they can inject into all these other people. So it's kind of like a knock-on effect. So it's like a ripple effect. So I help them create a great brand. They go out into the world. They create, they have a great business, and they impact all these different people's lives with that. That is the kind of cornerstone of my business. And I think yours is similar in a sense that, it's about, it's just about creating as many people's lives as you could touch. And the more, obviously, with more, yes, of course, everybody's here to make money, but at the end of the day, the more people you can help and the more people you can, get like reach, the bigger that effect can be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So in branding will help you do that, definitely. Do you know what I mean? It will. Yeah.
Cool. You mentioned localization.
Yes, localization.
I would suggest that for a lot of SME brand, like corporate brands, like localization will be a word that is commonplace.
Okay.
But I think for a lot of people that have then sort of gone on to start their own businesses, build their own brands, like localization, they might have a slightly skewed understanding of what that means. So from a design perspective,
yep.
From
a design perspective, again, I suppose, like that, this is when you, if you're going to be global, or you're going to be, operating in a few different countries, then, there is a cultural aspect. I mean, like, I work and I live between England and Italy, and I see, larger brands, and I see they've been rebranded for here, and again, obviously the wording that you use, and like obviously if you're going to then work with Eastern cultures as well, things that are appropriate for them are things that could be you just have to take into cultural stuff, but then also language is important. But for me, localization is like you take a brand and you make sure that it's acceptable across the board, not acceptable, but acceptable. It's not just the best word in the world to use, but it works in other countries, basically. And then obviously from a local, I mean, I use when I do big projects, I use agencies to use, and everybody you can use Google Translate, and I know there's AI tools out there that can do it, but I use translation agencies, and they have like translation memories, so language memories. So, and then depending on what sector my client is in, depends on which agency I go with, translation agency I go with, because of, you might have somebody who's in the medical sector or in the industrial sector, and, different work, like, so you can translate something. I mean, sometimes I do use Google Translates, if I'm trying to think about, mainly I use it to see what errors usually get up, because, you're usually using the wrong verbs, or, especially from a Latin point of view, a lot of the languages are similar. But you can see, like they stick in the wrong verb, and they stick in the wrong, not the wrong verb, the end bit, what do you call it? It's not the wrong verb, it is the piece. So it's either, it's got to be masculine, feminine, or or neuter, you know, like, does that make sense? Or them or they, or, you know, that sort of thing. And often it just muddles it all up, and it's just not very good. And then, you know, there's colloquialisms. I've got a wonderful book, like a polyglot book, which, you know, goes through like colloquialisms, you know, so it's like a local phrase. Like, so we might say, oh, let's say like it's the end of the road, for it arrived at the end of the road, you know, it means that, you know, the relationship's finished, or it's done, or the job's done, yeah, we finished, you know, that sort of thing, you know. Whereas in Italy they'd say we've arrived at, you know, we're going to eat fruit now. It's like, that's because they obviously roll everything about eating, and, you know, and we're at the table, and when you're eating the fruit, that's the end bit of the meal.
Is
So
that a true
yeah, that's it.
Is it? I didn't know that.
So we've arrived at the fruit, obviously. I'm arrivata la frutta, which means we've at the end of the road. Or because I remember my dad used to always use colloquialism, so he's always saying, you know, oh, it's the end of the road for me, or, you know, it's like, you know, like that sort of thing, you know, like, or kick the bucket. That, you know, like, oh, I'm gonna kick the bucket. You know, in Italy, it's, you know, kick the bucket. Like, you know, it's that kind of. There's different. So there's, but obviously in France and in Germany, and everybody has their different types of ways of saying those colloquialisms, which is quite nice. But obviously if you potentially have a brand and you use stuff like that, like, which I do, then obviously you need to think about how that would translate into another language, you know, because obviously if you're going to say, oh, we've arrived at the end of the road, you know, in Italy they're going to be like, what do you mean we've arrived at the end of the road, you know? Well, you know, that for them, that's, you know, so that's the way they sound. I'm trying to think of another one now, I can't off the top of my head, but yeah, so that's
what's the we're going to wrap up soon, so I just got 2 questions because I think they'll be fun.
Okay.
So what was the worst design job you've ever delivered, and why was it awful?
God, I'm going to try and think now. God, I should have pre-looked at my folders. Probably something I've inherited from somebody and tried to fix. I remember once I inherited a logo from a friend, and she's like, what do you think of this logo? And it had like about 7 fonts in it, and it had a picture in it. Yeah, a lot of when people use pictures in logos, like actual photographs in logos. No, don't do that. Yeah, and I was kind of like, all right, yeah, well, what can we do? And she's like, oh, we could just delete it and start again, you know. But obviously, you know, when they've paid £5 to have their logo designed, they don't want to delete it and start again, you know. So you're kind of like, well, let's remove 6 of those fonts, and we'll reduce it to 2 colors, and we'll perhaps maybe delete that image. And yeah, I mean, that a lot sometimes, like when I inherit stuff, that can be difficult. That's probably some of my. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, worst jobs.
There's no jobs where like you would be mortified, like you're mortified now that you did that work.
Probably, yeah, but well, I have. I mean, I've worked with some massive clients as well. So, like, you know, like, yeah. I don't think so. No, I don't think there's anything I'm massively. Yeah, I do remember once doing a job for someone, and it was a classic kind of thing. You know, it's a designer rule. I tend not to do stuff in Word because of obviously Word. It doesn't, you know, like PowerPoint. If you have to be forced to do something so that a template, something can work in, I'd do it in. I'd create it as an A4 in PowerPoint because you have that option. But, you know, I remember doing something for Word for somebody. And then obviously, you know, my Mac Word, this is going back quite a few years, into their PC Word, totally destroyed it. And she came back and she's like, you're the worst designer I've ever seen. I can't believe you could send me this crap. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, and then I said, can you send me I sent her a PDF of what it should look like. And then she sent me a PDF of what it did look like. And I was like, yeah, I can see why you don't like that. Do you know what I mean? Because it'd gone all everywhere. And when she's like, oh, it looks totally different. I mean, generally, that was a pastel brown. I remember it being pale pink. You know, it always comes down to pastels. But yeah, and yeah, I remember that being a bit of a failure. So, but that was, you know, when I was kiddie. Do you know what I mean? I was doing favors for people whilst working in corporate. So, you know, like I was, you know, fresh on the block, you know, trying to please everybody and, you know, not and failing.
So yeah. What's the design job that you've enjoyed doing the most?
I love doing lots of stuff. I love working for Green Umbrella. I like the energy that we've got. And I really enjoy doing our blog posts and blog stuff and that sort of thing. You know, we've just recently done some stuff for Team. Even though it's been heavy going, I've really enjoyed the work. And that was obviously themed. That was themed. So, and that was a 90s. That was difficult. Again, that's a kind of a branding, you know, like a dual branding thing going on there. I remember when I was one of the jobs I did a long time was work for Ryman's, the stationers, and a proud moment for me was we worked for them, and I was still quite a young designer at the time. There's lots of moments. I mean, I've worked for so many different people, but particularly with Ryman's, I remember I swapped over my design with the senior designer, because I said to my boss, I said, "Oh, I'm sick of it. Everyone just treats me as a junior, and I've got to make tea and toast." And I said, "No, I'm a good designer." Listen, he's like, "Yeah, I know you are." So we used to regularly swap stuff over. Apart from with one of the other designers who used to always do pastel stuff, so you could never really pass your stuff off as hers, because like it had her mark on it. Yeah, and then. And literally, so we swapped over, and then everything went, the contract went, and then Ryman's were like absolutely going crazy, saying our sales have increased by 75%. This is all point of sale stuff in shop. So, like posters in the windows, High Street store, Regent Street, and they came back and they were like, our sales have gone from like literally 75% increase within the week of putting the stuff in. It was a back to school thing, and it was in September. And obviously, I mean, they would expect an increase then anyway, because it was right time, but it was an unprecedented like sales result. And they were like patting my boss on the back, going, "You're a fantastic designer." And he's like, "Right, everybody, thanks. So let's start patting Debs on the back," because it was all her. And I was just like, and again, but it was really bright colours. It was cyan. It was bright. Yeah, it was like a limey yellow and cyan, with really kind of like funky pictures, and it was brilliant. It was really good fun to work on. But other brands, like I've worked on, I've done a lot of charity work, which I've really, really enjoyed. So I've done stuff for Click Sergeant. I've done lots of stuff for Seeability, which is a local charity in my area. I've done stuff for the RSPCA. I love working for the RSPCA. I've done stuff for them in Australia as well. And yeah, I tend to try and onboard a charity. I haven't done it since I've had children. I've only done one charity since I've had kids, which is a bit of a shame, because I just haven't had the time like I used to have the time. But yeah, and it was RSPCA that I did stuff for when I did it in between Ilaria and Izzy. And yeah, that I like working for charities as well. So you can join, like you can go on, that they have like marketing boards, you can join and you can go on and you can, give advice and do stuff. So yeah, I like doing that sort of stuff. But yeah, I generally like working with most people, really, and I've had lots of lovely experiences. I'm trying to think of a really terrible one, but I can't. I have had a horrible one just recently, but we won't go into that because I'm over.
No, we won't talk about that. Yeah,
let's not go about that one. But
we'll talk about it once the wounds have healed.
Yeah, once the wounds have healed, we can talk about it. Right now, it's that classic kind of like, "Oh yeah, I love it. You're the best in the world," and then it's like, "I'm not going to pay you. You're terrible." It's like, "Oh, all right then." What?
And you used to work anyway, and then you used to work anyway. You're like,
okay, yeah. So yeah, it's nuts. But yeah, so yeah, designing is really it's fantastic. Well,
love it.
Yeah.
You love it. I just love this, like I love the constant stream of new ideas and developments on ideas and that kind of stuff that kind of comes through on WhatsApp. Sometimes I'm like, "Debs, we all need a break now. Like just stop, just like let's just have a couple of hours and chill out." But this is you, this is who you are 24/7. You're constantly thinking.
I know. I was going to text you actually, because I usually text you during live lunch. I haven't this will be the first live lunch in a long time that you haven't actually had a text from me.
A text or a call.
Or Kim, because Kim not text you. She should have taken over that job role. I should have briefed her beforehand to say, "Look, can you just text us and bother us throughout the whole of live lunch?"
Amazing, Debs. We will leave it there. Paul said in the comments there, he said, "Lovely to see Debs. Bring her back again, as it feels like there's been 3 episodes crammed into one." Hashtag bring back Debs. Well, I keep saying to her, she knows when it is. All she's got to do is show up.
Well, I do know where it is, but I forget. And I can remember in the morning. Yeah, I can remember in the morning, and then by the time lunchtime comes around, forget it. You've got to text me like 10 minutes before and say, "Deb, live lunch is happening in 10 minutes." The thing is, I'm not disorganized. It's like, I suppose if you were to say, like, you have to come to live lunch, it's part of your job role for being a rebel, you have to do it. But because you always give it the kind of, you don't have to, you can if you want, I'm kind of like, "Oh, okay, yeah, all right, then you don't really need me, you don't really want me, I don't know." And it's kind of like that. So I think it was the case, if you were to say, "Deb, get on there now you have to do it, you know, like, I would be there. So I'll try. I promise I'll try.
We want you on here. It's just got to fit with your work schedule. That's all.
Yeah,
like I said, you are a massive part of Green Umbrella. However, you are Design Smile, so it's I don't get to tell you what you must not do.
Well, you can if you like. I don't mind.
All right. So
it's easier.
12 o'clock.
Yeah, next week, 12 o'clock.
Amazing. Debs, it's like we talk about this stuff all the time, so we know we love talking about it. I feel like yeah, thank you. And do you know what? Just I know I send messages in between. I'm really crap at saying thank you in the moment at the right time. And then I realise and I send a little message saying thank you and I appreciate you and everything else. But honestly, Debs, like the last couple of months, you've been not just we've been working on the team project, which has been huge, but there's another project that you've been working on alongside that is still ongoing, that is massive for one of our clients. And it is just, you know, and everything you do for Green Umbrella as well, just thank you. I really do appreciate you and everything you do.
Thank you for the opportunities. I love you too.
Amazing. Thanks everyone for dropping in. That's it for this week's Green Umbrella Live Lunch. We will be back next Thursday at 12. Kim will be back with us as well. Hopefully Debs will be here.
I'll try. Oh, no, on holiday. Oh, look at all those. Oh my God, how did I do that? That's incredible.
How did that? That's never happened on here before.
Oh my God, that's a sign, that is.
It's not doing it for me. Why have you got that and I haven't? Do you know, the three of us were on WhatsApp the other day, me, Debs and Kim. And you know, like WhatsApp can do the thumbs up and stuff like that. And it just like, we were all trying to get it to do it at the same, and like, I think we just kept getting two out of the three of us were getting it. I'm going off on a tangent now. Do we need to do a screenshot? Yeah, we do need to do a screenshot. Hold on, I'll get it ready. Right. All right, so hold on. Right, this is the true Green Umbrella now. I'm like struggling to get my mouth. Here we go. Right, I am screenshot ready. So do your 2 thumbs up so you can get your fireworks again. Oh, no, really? Oh, there they are. Amazing. That's incredible. How did I do that? Oh, do it again. Oh, come on. Thumbs up. Hold on 1 second. Amazing. No? Okay, so I'm ending it there. We've had an amazing time with you. Mwah, love you lots. Ciao, ciao. See everyone later. See you next week. Bye-bye.